Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very exciting episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show, where we woke up and then changed all of our notes to talk about the crazy stuff that's happening. So my name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful summer edition. I hope you're enjoying your summer.
Yeah, we had two wonderful guest episodes back to back, and that was a lot of fun. But these are good too. I like our just me and you episodes because we like a lot. I mean, things have happened with my Numenera game. Lots of stuff going on that we haven't been able to talk about for the past 3 weeks. It feels like so. This will be fun. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just dive into the big news. So Amazon, good friends Amazon, have leaked 2 books.
Friends of the show.
Friends of the show, Amazon. Jeff Bezos himself. And this just happened this morning, I think, because a couple of the news outlets are now leaking it out. It was on Reddit. Nerd Immersion's already got a video up. I was telling him about it.
Funny.
I was like, Ted, wait, you already have a video out on it. Okay. And I was like, well, I'm behind. But we knew it was going to be an adventure, and we knew it was going to be something else. And the something else was a Magic the Gathering setting. I still was very convinced, and like certain sources told me that a Dragonlance setting is coming, but maybe that'll be in 2022. So,
I was convinced. We've been reporting on this show. We kept finding places where they said there's 2 more books coming that reference older setting campaigns.
Yeah, you're right.
We thought there were 2 more coming that were going to be
classic
all like,
campaign
Dragonlance
settings.
Makes sense because the books are coming out, and that was everybody's big guess. And then it was the second one that everybody's like, well, it could be this or it could be that.
Yeah.
Or, it could be
Spelljammer.
Spelljammer. Take your drink. That should be our drink because we're going to mention Spelljammer and everything until we get it. But this is not surprising because it makes sense on the books that we haven't had a Magic the Gathering book yet this year. So it makes sense we're getting one. And then a Feywild book we've been talking about nonstop, probably every show this year already. We kept saying, why don't they have a Feywild book?
Yeah.
Why don't they have a Feywild book? So it makes absolute total sense. They've listened to us completely. But the other rumors must have been wrong then. So those must have just been wrong, or they're coming later.
And that's
Because it can't be 4 books coming.
Well, yeah, I think these are the last 2 books for 2021.
Yeah, November
but
and
they're good. I wonder if that campaign setting is going to happen in early, like March of 2022.
The first book of the next
year. And so around Christmas, we'll be hearing about it, and that's going to be the other classic campaign setting. I don't know.
Maybe they could announce it this year. That would satisfy the rumor, but the book would be for next year.
Yeah, or the rumor was like, I mean, things get pushed back and forth, so stuff gets like, well, we're gonna move this over to quarter 8.
Question. So, I had a lore question for Jordan, the good friend of our show.
The PH
Jordan.
is silent. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I had wondered. It's called The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, a Feywild adventure. Is that a reference to any previous setting book that we can think of at all? From
what I've read, okay, so we should just talk about this first because a lot of people don't know, but the 2 books that were leaked on Amazon are The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, a Feywild adventure, and this is their big adventure. So this is their Icewind Dale. This is the big like Gate, 1 to 15 adventure that's going to come out.
Dungeon Mad Mage.
And we don't know anything about it because it just says it's an adventure. And it's going to be tune in to D&D Live on G4 July 16th and 17th. Which will introduce characters, monsters, mechanics, and story hooks, and da-da-da. So they're just kind of, here you can have this. There's no cover art yet. Nothing is out there.
It's a placeholder on Amazon if you search for it.
So it's just a placeholder. But this is what was leaked by Amazon. And it's going to come out September 21st, 2021. This is their big... I mean, this is every year they've been doing those campaign settings, or not campaign settings, but stories, a campaign to play in. And so I wonder if, this will be probably an excellent reference to the Feywild because you're going to play in the Feywild is what it sounds like. The Wild Beyond is always just kind of like the Feywild, the whatever. So that makes sense. Witchlight didn't ring a bell to me off the top of my head. Yeah,
I tried to look. There's some books out there.
I don't know if that's something they created, but in the sense of like it's, part of the story, or if it actually has some Feywild canonical history with it, which the Feywild isn't that old. I mean, it is just a 4th edition concept that they solidified and named. There was always like the realm of Fey, but like they actually like, made source books for it in 4th edition and stuff like that. So I don't know.
And even in the little blurb, it says, bringing the wicked whimsy of the Feywild to 5th edition for the first time. So as in saying, it's been around in other editions. Here's the first time we're bringing it in the 5th edition. Here we get it, which is what we kind of wanted. But I had wondered if Witchlight, because I looked, there were some authored books out there not related to Dungeons and Dragons, but I couldn't find anything. But it did seem like a very specific reference. So I wonder if there's some deep lore that some of the internet sleuths could bring up for us and let us know.
Yeah, so... Boy, just Googling it, the 5th edition system reference document, the creatures, there is a Witchlight tiny construct creature that flies around and is made of quartz. But I don't know if this website is viable, but it looks like it is also called a spooklight. A Witchlight is a wizard servant created from a tiny piece of quartz. It appears as a floating ball of flickering light, similar to a will-o-wisp. It's animated through magic, so I don't know. That's kind of cool, though.
Cyberwolf was saying the cover might have been leaked on the Fantasy Grounds website.
Ooh.
Because they sell modules over at Fantasy Ground, just like Roll20 does. But I'm looking around. I don't know if I see anything yet. If you guys see it, post it in chat or let us know where you see it. But that's what I love about a show like today or an announcement that does leak a little bit. And it's just enough for us to go and start looking for things and try to find things. But it's not enough to tell us, here's everything that's in the book, right? I don't want somebody to give me page per page screenshots. If you have the book right now, don't do that. Give us little hints and let us go find stuff until the book releases. And then when it releases, we can see what was actually in it. Give us tiny hints, not the whole thing.
Yeah. So...
I'll keep looking around.
I don't know. My sources don't have any pictures, but I don't peruse around Fantasy Grounds very often, so that would be interesting.
They got some cool stuff on
there. So I don't know. I'll do some more Witchlight sleuthing, maybe when I'm not streaming and recording a podcast. So that'll be fun. That's an adventure, and I have wanted to a lot of people want us to get away from the Sword Coast, which we have because we've gone to Hell. We've gone to Chult. They're the Abyss, or not the Abyss, but like the Underdark is not very, I don't know. So I always get frustrated when people are like, again, another one on the Sword Coast. I'm like, just because you start there and you end up in Hell doesn't mean it's a Sword Coast adventure, but c'est la vie. So the next book is a Magic the Gathering setting book, like we've seen before with Ravnica and Theros. And this one is called Curriculum of Chaos, and it is a Strixhaven Magic the Gathering setting. The more I read about this, the more I'm just like, this is perfect for Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I had no idea. Like, yeah. So Strixhaven is the Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering's take on the magical school genre, like Harry Potter and all these other things. So it's a university that exists in the multiverse that has 5 colleges founded by an elder dragon. And each college is a combination of the different Magic the Gathering magical colors. So Silver Quill is light and dark. I'm probably saying all of these wrong. White and black, that's what we say, sorry. Prismari is blue and red. Witherbloom is black and green. Lorehold is red and white. And Quandrix is green and blue. And I guess the colleges battle it out with each other. And this is like a safe haven in the multiverse, and so a lot of planeswalkers will try to get there to kind of like hide or just like recuperate or something with something going on. So and so then looking at the cards, that's what I was like curious about. is awesome. All of them. Like I found a bunch of the cards on magic.wizards.com, and there's a lot of like instant spells, but there's also creature human wizard, creature frog wizard, creature bird wizard. What other ones?
Everything's a wizard.
Merfolk wizard. Everything's a wizard, but no, there were clerics, human warlock, vampire warlock. So a lot of these were the names of classes that we already play, you know? There's artifacts, there's, well, this is the black deck, so it's all shamans, warriors. Yeah, so I was looking at this and I'm like, this actually seems really cool. Lots of spirits. So we'll probably get a bunch of new or like we have a grung, but they might take the grung and just reverse it into like, now you're a frog wizard or something. But boy, it looks cool. Plant dog, some of these. Oh, and druids. There's a lot of druids. So I saw a monk earlier when I was going through these cards. So yeah,
it's
dwarf
the perfect
cleric
setting.
It does.
Perfect
It seems like a
for
great
it.
setting for D&D. So and it's funny. I don't know anything about Strixhaven, but I would be excited about this book, probably because I like magic and the idea, not Magic the Gathering, but the idea of just magic in general. And this would be a whole campaign setting that kind of revolves around magic. So ideally new spells, you know, probably some new classes, or subclasses, I should say. But what do you think?
I would love for them to dive into a big spell edition. If you're going to have lots of mages and mage dueling, maybe
that could be a fun mechanic.
A form of mechanic, yeah, that's how they could do that, and then that would let you play more of a school of magic in Dungeons and Dragons. We don't necessarily have one now. You have Fey, which is like the city of, you know, wizards and sorcerers and things like that, but we don't ever get over there yet. There's no real magic city on the Sword Coast that's just pure magic. Maybe Silvery Moon might be the closest you could do that with, because it does have like academies and things in it, if you read about that a little bit. So you could maybe do a school of magic kind of, you know, teenagers going to high school, or they just graduated high school, they're going to college, you know, magic college, and you could play those kind of style games. There's a lot of people that love that style of a game.
Okay, so the McElroy podcast, they were playing D&D 5e, and they did that where they were at a magical school and like they ran through a whole scenario of this magical school. And so it's a trope that is fun, you know, especially if you're just like, you're a level 1 wizard and then you go through. Board with Life Adventures, a podcast that I really like that they have sadly discontinued. They might bring it back, I don't know. But they were playing through a game called XP Academy, where they were like these special kids that were born under the right stars. And they find these special kids, and then they force them to go to an academy where they can learn their magical potential. And that was a really fun one, because they had to go out an adventure and come back with gold and then like study. And he had this whole mechanic of how they would like level up and stuff using gold as XP, and it was a lot of fun. So anyway, yes. So it's, you know, we've done this. People do this. This makes a lot of sense for D&D. If you're going to play Harry Potter, though, I recommend Kids on Brooms. It's really fun.
Yes. Cyberwolf brings up a good point, too. We haven't really seen UA articles that support anything to give us a hint from Strixhaven. Yeah. We've seen plenty that might give us some stuff in Feywild. If we go back now, we could probably look at some of the UA stuff that hasn't appeared anywhere yet, and I bet we could guess several of the items that now make a showing in the Feywild adventure that could possibly show up there. But yeah, he's correct. We just haven't seen anything with Strixhaven. But you can go buy the card sets right now. You can go buy. I've been waiting to go down because I still want to go and buy the D&D card set that's going to be in Magic the Gathering, so we can see the D&D crossover into Magic, which I think would be cool. And maybe that's how they do it, because maybe Strixhaven world is a good pull-in for the D&D stuff, because most of the Magic the Gathering cards are like planes, right? They're a world, and then they have the rules around them and the theme to it and the stuff. Or are they just going to do are they going to call it Terrell? Or are they going to call it Forgotten Realms? Are they going to call it, you know, after the continent? Are they going to call it after the coast? Are they going to call it after, you know, I wonder. I'm really curious to see what that even looks like, too.
Yeah.
And then to play Magic the Gathering rules with all of the tropes of, I summon my beholder, and then you summon your Lich Lord, and you know, you're like, here's my Wizard of Thay that does this, or what, you know, whatever.
So I was looking at the Forgotten Realms Magic the Gathering cards, and I have a set on pre-order, and then this isn't like an official thing yet, but I had a Magic the Gathering website contact me because they want to cross promote between D&D channels and Magic the Gathering channels. So I'm on like a waiting list, and we'll see. But they were talking about sending me a lot of cards, and if they do that, I want to unbox a whole bunch of them. And then I think it was. I don't play Magic the Gathering very much, but we were talking about like Indoor Adventurer said he might teach us Magic, and I was like, that could be a really fun episode for a YouTube thing where we're like, we'll just play. And we even talked about buying some on the Magic the Gathering arena, and then we could play there. So we'll say, but I'm excited.
Store, but yeah,
there's a dungeon mechanic apparently that I read about. So while you're playing your Magic the Gathering card game, there are certain cards that let you delve into the dungeon, and then if you could come back with certain artifacts or something like that help you. And so they're playing off of the D&D aspect of it, which is fun. And they know it. I mean, they're wizards. They own both properties. So yeah,
very cool. Yeah, I was gonna go down to the mortar store, the actual physical store, buy a big box of them, bring them back. And definitely, I thought doing an opening of them would be super cool for one of our shows at some point, or even an evening show or an extra show or whatever.
Yeah.
Play, and we could see how they play. See what look at all the cool artwork. I'm just interested to see have they brought in a bunch of the old stuff? Have they brought in new artists to do stuff that looks like the old stuff? Do they have a bunch of new art?
So the cards that they've revealed specifically, like there's a Drist card. Or I got yelled at the other day. Is Drizzt? I'm like, I don't say Drizzt, I say Drist. I'm sorry. But people on Facebook were very upset that they're like, you're saying it wrong. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's a made up word. I don't think R.A. Salvatore cares. But so the Drist card is amazing. And then the painter of that, he sold the painting for like $40,000 or something. Ooh, okay. So not to Wizards of the Coast, but it was just like, here's the finished painting. Wizards has all their pictures and stuff, and the license to use it with Magic the Gathering. But it's anyway, yeah. So kudos to that artist. I was like, that's really cool.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, they're doing. I guess the thing with Magic the Gathering now is they do a lot of custom borders and different art on limited cards. So you have the same card, but you might have different art on it. And so they're doing, like, there's the new fancy Drist card with the amazing art, but then there's also, like, they took Drist from, like, a second edition black and white thing and put that on the card. So there are some, like, throwbacks to earlier editions of D&D. The new Lolth painting looks amazing, too. And, they're going to have, so a bunch of characters, and then you have things like, goblins that you can summon, and all the monsters
Tiamat.
and stuff.
Tiamat
was one of the cards, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Sarah was talking about, yeah.
So that comes out, I think, July as well.
Yes, pretty soon.
So
not too far.
Or maybe it's June, I don't remember. Anyway, somebody in chat will let me know, but...
you can pre-order now, but I was thinking it's still a couple weeks off before I could go pick my cards up.
Yeah. For sure. So...
Well, you have played Magic in the past. It's not like you haven't played. Maybe you haven't played current Magic in the last year and a half or so.
Yeah,
when you did play, what was the color combo that you liked to throw together?
Oh man, I don't even know. Like, what did I? The thing is I never owned any cards. Like my friend,
you were just playing Arena. I got you.
Well, no, not even Arena. Like in college, my friend wanted me to play Magic the Gathering, and I was like, that sounds cool. And we went to the card shop, and I looked at his inventory of cards because he's been playing since '95, and I looked at my inventory of cards, and I'm like 0. And it felt like such a financial investment to have fun. Like, I like the idea of building decks and all this other stuff. And my friend was not being mean by any means, but he's like, I mean, I can't blame him for saying, oh, you want to play Magic? I've been wanting to try out this crazy deck I built. And he would just annihilate me. And it's like, like, I don't know. So we got into a habit where I didn't like playing against his, like, decks that he's fine-tuned over many, many years. And so we started doing drafts where we would just buy things. But at the end of college, he was like, well, I love Magic. And I'm like, yeah, and so I gave him my cards. And I kept a small deck of slivers. It was a sliver deck. And I just liked that, and I have since lost all of those cards. I don't know. Somewhere in the many moves that I did as a young 20 something, they're gone. And I'm really sad because it would be fun to just have my old Magic cards, but I lost them.
Yeah.
I never had like I really like playing green black. Like I never had that experience. And with Arena, the cards that were kind of like freely given and the ones that I bought, I just like followed some deck building online because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah. So
yeah, I had got in on the beginning, and then in the 90s into the 2000s, I ended up selling my Arabian Nights and my beta cards and those ones that I had because I wasn't playing; they were just in boxes.
Yeah,
$2,500 back then, and I fixed my car because right at that time I had broken a piece underneath my truck that I was driving, and I was like, I need to fix it. So I sold those cars to a friend who was a really super popular. He loved the game. He's probably still playing that game, and he probably still has those cards right now. If I were to try to sell them right now, they'd be worth a ton of money.
Yeah.
But
No, I
had the money then.
I almost had a complete set of first edition Pokemon cards.
There.
And I don't know where they went. I had them all. They were in sleeves. They were well protected. And then again, the last time I remember them was 2005, and I was living in an apartment with a friend, and I left that apartment early to take a job in Seattle, and I don't know where they went. And he might have them, but I haven't talked to him in years, and I doubt that he does. But that's the same thing. Like, I look online, and I'm just like, I would have had, like, that extra $5,000 would be real nice right now. I was missing a Charizard and another one, but I had almost all of them. It was great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I got into it heavy at first and then fell out of it, but then I just had this box that just sat around.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, all of a sudden it's worth money. If I'd have kept it 10 years, it'd be worth more money. If I'd kept it 15 years, it'd just be crazy. But it's cool. I'm glad that there's the crossover. I know it's not everybody's bag. I know we talk about it all the time. Not everybody wants Magic the Gathering in their Dungeons and Dragons. Not everybody wants Dungeons and Dragons in their Magic the Gathering, but I'm that key audience, so I'm who they're targeting. So they're not targeting you, they're targeting me.
Yeah.
And I'm buying all that stuff. So
yeah, no, and it's weird because Ravnica I wasn't too excited for. Theros, I think I liked the idea of it, but I would much rather use the Theros rules to play a Greek style game with like Zeus and stuff. Like I don't really see the need to use their gods. But I mean, I'm very excited for a Feywild adventure. That sounds fun. But this Strixhaven, I'm like, I don't know anything about it really, but like I'm game for magical school. Like I think that's really fun. So two books that I'm very excited for. I think it'll be awesome. We'll see.
And just the factions.
This
Imagine like
summer.
you could, so you could play. You're as a dungeon master, you can set up Prismari having and fighting Witherbloom, but it's all been set up by Silverquill, who's in the background trying to get both of those groups to fight so they can do something else. I mean, they're giving you built-in factions that can kind of compete against each other openly and in the shadows, so your players can find out about that kind of stuff. They can be a part of one of those, or they can just be working for one as mercenaries or groups that get brought in to do missions for them, and maybe they work for a couple of them. And you could have a whole city where this stuff's happening. There's a lot of potential of storytelling going on there that can be really fun. So they can be a part of it, they can be adjacent to it, and it's part of the filler. It's part of what's the NPCs that are going on. And as a GM, imagine all the cool NPCs you can create in that world. All the cool mages from the different factions and the spell combinations.
I wonder if they'll be like limiting though too. Like if I'm a necromantic then I can't actually learn these types of spells. It'd be kind of interesting if they reshape the spell trees for classes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, sometimes limits though are fun. Sometimes limits make you more creative too.
When you're just like, hey, we're gonna play in this world, you can't be a human. What? I don't know. I think that's interesting. Also, I want to point out before we move on that there are those schools, and then there's the Oriq, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, ORIQ. And these are the mages who couldn't pass the entrance exam of Strixhaven, or their dropouts, and they started an evil whatever, and they're obsessed with power, and they have cool masks.
We'll show them.
So there's your villain, and that looks really cool. A whole order of mages that are out to get you because you succeeded in school, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, because you wouldn't let them into your prize school,
your club. So super
they?
fun. Gnomes are going to be king because they have those advantages on saving throws, now that I think about it. yeah, so moving on, that's all we really know about that. We'll keep you guys posted. If you follow us on Twitter, obviously we talk about stuff and things like that. I wanted to talk about Kickstarters for a little bit because I actually have been funding quite a few of them in the last little bit.
I'm a Kickstarter junkie. So
I know. So the first one that I got here came in the mail 2 days ago. And this is, I got Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. Now, this book is awesome. Like, it's so well put together, too. It's so good.
Ooh, that was a nice picture.
This is by Necrotic Gnome, and they did a Kickstarter a while ago for Old School Essentials Classic Fantasy. And so the Classic Fantasy was like a reinterpretation of the BX rules of Dungeons & Dragons, basic expert rules. But they wanted to clean up the text and just make it a little bit better and things like that. So this would be the like AD&D version, because this is advanced fantasy. So they did a Kickstarter back in September to fund this, and what's really cool is they kind of combined the BX rules and the advanced rules into one book. So if you already had classic fantasy, part of the Kickstarter was you could order just the 4 books that would like elevate your classic fantasy game to advanced, or you could get this, which has, all of the rules. And so we've got a player's tome, I've got a referee's tome, and then I didn't even buy these extra, but because the Kickstarter reached its goals, they included 2 adventures. There we go.
Oh, so nice.
And these are, they're hard. These are hardback, and they're really cool. And I've only been reading this one so far, but it's called Halls of the Blood King. And it's about like a vampire Strahd kind of castle that appears, and your players, for whatever reason you want to come up with, have to go explore it. But it only appears on the eclipse of a moon, like every 10 years or something. And so you have like 6 hours to get in and out. Otherwise, you're going to travel with this somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like the Kroll Castle.
Yeah, the Kroll Castle, exactly. So really cool. It has like a lot of old school stuff, which is like your race is your class. So if you're playing a dwarf or a drow, like that is the thing. But the advanced rules in there give you options to do, I want to be a dwarf, but I also want to play a cleric. And so that was the big thing about advanced D&D is they broke away. So you could be an elf wizard. You're not just an elf or something like that. Really cool. I have been reading it. I was talking to Lucian before the games or before the show started that I'm super busy with my new job learning, so I haven't had a lot of time to go over this, but or to prep anything. But I want to invite you, Lucian, if you want to. I want to play a game, and maybe I have some online maps and stuff for this Halls of the Blood King. And so if you guys want to, we should roll some characters, and I want to run through an Old School Essentials game just to get a feeling for how the system plays, and then I want to talk about it on my channel. So, but yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll talk to you after the show. We'll get you some stuff and we'll make some characters. Cool. So, anyway, Old School Essentials, you can go somewhere to buy them. I think they're all sold out right now because this just funded, but obviously they're going to be able to print more, and you should be able to buy it if you're interested in it. The art is really cool.
Absolutely. After
Layout's
I just
awesome.
looked at them. And the size looked cool too.
Oh,
the size.
It's like great to hold in your hand. It lays nice at the table. Like, I don't know. Let me find some.
Yeah.
There's just like super fun art and stuff. I don't know. It's too bright, Jordan. It's too bright.
There somewhere.
They did a really good job on the side. This is like a little thing that I think is really cool. Is they color coded the pages in certain areas, so I can look at it and be like,
was that way.
"Oh, I know that this first section is all the monsters, and I know that this next section is all this." So when you're flipping through, you're not trying to find page numbers. You're just looking at color bars, and you can kind of. Very good design. Very good design.
Monty Cook did that on their Tolus book. I loved it. So you can get right to where you need to go.
Yeah. Another one that I kickstarted was called "You Are the Dungeon."
You were almost going to talk about this, but we had a guest on the last 2 weeks, so you've not had the chance to go into this.
And we played it I did a playtest of my game, and he brought this, and he's like, I want to play this. But it's a storytelling game where you start drawing a dungeon, and then you add on to it, and you make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it uses a tarot deck to randomly generate certain things. So it's kind of fun, and I think the idea is like, hey, I want to get, Lucian and Danimal and LB Hackemup, and the four of us together are going to make a dungeon, and then you make this kooky weird dungeon, and then I would take it and I would play it with, Lex and other people and things like that. Like, I think that's kind of fun to have, like, one group make a dungeon for another group.
But, one group's making content that the other group's going to go through. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Like, I think that's a lot of fun. And so we played it and we made like a little game, and my friend Matthew was just like, no, what I really like about this is how many times are you in a dungeon and you're like, why does it have a wall that bleeds? Or like, why is there a stool in the middle of the room? But now you know why. Because like we went through and there's all these kooky weird things, but they all have a very, they all exist for a very specific reason. And that's kind of fun.
Man, you just gave me a great idea. I wonder, because you know how you could play... what was the game where you make your campaign world? Is the game is it Mothership that's that? Or is it...
Microscope?
Microscope.
Yeah.
Boy, could you do a Microscope campaign that feeds your actual roleplay campaign? So one group meets on one night and figures out the world and the stuff that's going on using those rules. And then you play it with your actual role-playing, fantasy go-get-treasure group.
Yeah.
And so you have like this brain trust of people helping you devise this perfect world to send your parties through. Oh, that'd be so good.
That could be fun. That's a lot of work. I need to finish my job first.
After, all the other stuff we're doing. Yeah.
The other one that I kickstarted was, and again, these are not sponsored or anything. I'm just really excited about RPGs. Yeah. So don't think that they're paying to be on the show. But this one is an RPG called Mazes. And I don't know much about it other than the people that are creating it are like really passionate about it, which we've talked about. Like, if you're super passionate about something, like, that's awesome. But every class in this game is a die size, and you only roll one die. So if you're a wizard, you have a D4. If you're a big burly fighter, you have a D10. If you're, X, Y, and Z in the middle. And so you're just kind of role playing, and it seems really simple, but I like the mechanic of like, this die represents me, and so I'm like small, but I have a higher percentage chance because I'm only 1 in 4 to do something. But the fighter can take a lot of hit points, but he's got a 1 in 10 chance. And so I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Very Ben-like to me.
Yeah.
Ben Milton is probably going to,
I bet he'll do
bet we see this on his channel.
Exactly. It seems very OSR-y and really fun, so I'm excited for that.
Very cool.
But, and again, I don't know much about it. I was talking about it on certain Discords and stuff, but everyone's kind of like, I don't know, looks cool. And I was like, okay. So they've got a video about how to play and a bunch of things. So if you're curious about that, you can check it out. But
very cool DM screen, the Maze controller screen.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
And then last but not least, Dungeon Crawl Classics. Go ahead and take a drink, Danimal.
Take a drink, Danimal.
I've been talking about this a while, but the Dying Earth box set that they're creating.
Everybody's talking about
this is coming to Kickstarter soon, so I'm assuming like mid this month, maybe the end of this month. But DCC, The Dying Earth, is going to be cool. It's a box set that comes with adventures and ways to play, new spell mechanics, all this other stuff. But if you haven't read Jack Vance's Dying Earth, it's dated in the sense that it's a little misogynistic in parts and things like that, but it is very good, and it's very interesting fantasy. And it's very like... The
stuff was written in the 70s.
Yeah, or earlier, I want to say. But but it's very foundational for a lot of, I feel, Dungeons and Dragons in general, and I am really excited about this. And a lot of people were talking because they did a Empire of the East book, which was also based off of some novels. And that is fine, but I bought it, I kickstarted it, and I ripped through it, and I was like, it's good, but I don't feel like I'll ever play a world, or I'll ever play in here. And I even started reading the books to see if it would inspire me, and it really didn't. And so people were like, well, I hope it's better than that one, because that one was like not good and da-da-da. But basically they're saying like, hey, we learned our lesson from, not lessons, but we learned a lot from the Lankmar book that they released.
Right.
And Lankmar was a whole, was a campaign setting with adventures and new spell mechanics and the ways to work. And so they're basing a lot of this new one off of that one. And I think that's really a smart idea. And it makes me really even more excited because Lankmar's really good. I would love to play an Alankmar game, even though I have only read a third of the first book. Like, so I think this will be really fun, and that's going to come soon. I'm going to probably tweet about it a whole bunch, but it looks really awesome. So
yeah. There's a couple of announcements that I got from mine where Grimmer World's almost ready to ship. That's the one that's Sean Austin. He was part of creating a
that's the
game.
Is he the World of Warcraft guy?
No, he is one of the hobbits.
Yes,
from Stranger Things.
Right.
He is one of our great actors, and I love to watch.
There was a
him
World
do
of
stuff.
Warcraft guy that was making a 5e book.
But there's also that. Yeah, I saw that one. Still, it's getting close. I got an update on the anime 5e one that we looked at that I backed.
Awesome.
So that's going on. I get a few things from Venture Maidens and some of the other ones that I've backed recently. So those are all. Keep an eye out on your emails. They're keeping up updates on that stuff so you guys know. But those are the ones I'm excited to come in because Tolis, I'm still reading through it and still trying to, it is so good, but it is so much too, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, there is a lot. I can't even imagine writing 670 pages of stuff about my world or because I've done Revenar and I feel like I've got this Port Bastion, and I've got all these player groups that have come and played there and explored the area. I still don't think I could fill 600 pages of here's this and here's this thing and here's that thing. But it's very interesting. I still love reading it. I'm finding that my hobby is slowly. I don't think it's changing because I still want to play all these. I just don't have the time, like you don't have the time at the moment. But there's this new hobby that I love, and it's called reading RPG books. And it's called backing Kickstarters. That's just a hobby now. It's like, it's not even because I'm going to play them. It's because I enjoy reading them. I enjoy supporting them. I enjoy watching people who are super excited about something create and then share it with others. And I just get infected by it, right? I'm just like, here's $40. Here's $50. I'm glad your dream's coming true. And I love reading through it. And I love the artwork. And I love what you're doing. I love your little twist on it. I like everybody wants to put just something a little bit different, and I love finding what that is or reading it. So it's now a true hobby of mine, I think. Just like
and how inspirational it is. Like, you might not play in Tolis, but like you're just like, oh, like this, I want to run this specific scenario, and then you add that into your game. And I think a lot of people think of campaign settings when, well, not a lot of people, but you shouldn't view campaign settings as, well, I'm never going to play in that world. Like, no, who cares? Like, I might never run Out of the Abyss, but there's lots of cool things in there that I'm going to take and put into my game, Like, there's a Sly Flourish made a video that I shared because I thought it was really good, where he's like, there's a reason to read published material.
Definitely.
And it's like, not just because you are going to play that game or run that campaign or play in whatever, but there's reasons to do it because you get so inspired and you understand how things, like, I read tons of RPG material, different systems and games, and then you might come away with like, oh, that was fun, or you might come away like, I want to play that, but more often I'm just like, I want to use that in this type of game, or like, I want to combine this,
one piece.
Perfect example is Strixhaven. We're all geeking out about that, and I'm like, I want to run a game in a magical school, and that sounds cool. Do I want to run it in Strixhaven? Probably not, but I like the idea of a magical school, and I will do that. So,
it's our bardic inspirations that just keeps coming back and coming back. You're reading other material, or you're seeing other things, and it's inspiring you to create something like it, or it gives you a totally different idea, but you wouldn't have got that idea unless you were sitting there reading this one thing. Like, it just triggers something, or a picture triggers something. You're all like, I'm going to run a game in the Mist of Stephen King's The Mist, or I'm going to do this where everything's on the side of a cliff and the whole world is it's just you come up with weird stuff, but it's inspired by looking at other people's creative, inspiring stuff too, that they were inspired by. And it was just like, I love it. There's so many things I want to put in my Revenar game. There's so many things I think about. I could run this type of campaign or that type of campaign. And what would happen if we ran all clerics, in this game? Or what happens if we're all drow and we're in the drow city, but we don't like the way things are ran. And now that's our campaign, right?
I love it.
We're the rebels of the Drow Empire. What are we going to do?
That is exactly what I want.
Blades in the dark kind of game, or just something crazy. So that's all inspiring just because you get to read all that other stuff or see those pictures.
Steve Zirk, thank you so much for the $5 donation. He says, I wholeheartedly agree with Sir Lucian's statement that I love supporting passionate, inspiring people. And he says he's really happy that he found the show. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That's really
Keep
nice of you.
coming by.
Man, so excited
I feel
about
like
these.
not even on the notes, or was it on the notes? And I thought about it. I feel like Critical Role.
Oh, we didn't talk about
has
Critical Role. Yeah.
hit a pretty big milestone. Fans of the show. I know Cyberwolf is a fan of the show. He may know. I watched last week's thinking it was their last show, but they had I'm not going to spoil everything for everybody, but they had a big encounter, a big campaign turning.
Well, the campaign's over from what I've heard. So
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Did it happen this
Campaign
last
2
night,
is
this
done.
last
They're
game,
going to start
Thursday night.
They're going to start
So
another
did they
one.
announce anything about what's next, or they
I don't
said
think
we've
so.
wrapped this up and we're going to take a break for a bit?
I don't know if there's
That's
a
what I was
break, but I would assume there is. I mean, it
must
was
be a
huge.
break.
So they did a 7-hour stream.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
yeah.
insane.
And I need to read my Critical Role Cliff Notes so I can catch up. Because again, somebody on the internet said that Critical Role is to RPGs what One Piece is to anime. And I have not watched One Piece, but it has so many episodes. But the people that love One Piece really love it. But when you're just like long episodes, yeah. And so they're like, "Hey, I love One Piece. You should watch this with me." But it's like I need to commit 900 hours to do this. I don't know if I have that. And Critical Role feels very same. Like I tried to keep up when Campaign 2 started, but I was like, but apparently they had a phenomenal ending, and everybody was in tears. I saw a clip where they were just like, "Thank you so much for watching." Like, just that cathartic, like, wow, we finished a whole thing together. So
they're good about playing a campaign all the way through. They're good about good wrapped up cinematic story ending kind of endings to things, which I think are really cool. A lot of us don't get that. A lot of us dungeon masters will start campaigns and they fizzle. They maybe don't go to conclusion. They maybe don't go every single night. We don't have a little bit. So even if that game isn't the style of game you like, the cool thing about it, I think, is they get to go from start to finish, and they're there the whole time. They are on almost every single week. Their players are there. Their players are into it. The dungeon, Matt Mercer's into it. All of the cast is into it. And it doesn't matter if the rest of us are into it or not, even though there are, probably millions of critters at this point. They go from start to finish. You don't get to see a lot of campaigns that do that. So, and then they're willing to start again and create some new characters, and Matt will come up with another idea for whatever the next campaign
how
he
long
wants to run.
How long do you think he'll play in Wildmount?
I don't know.
Like that made me wonder, because I'm just like,
you did 2 mega campaigns in it so
far. He
did
2 mega campaigns in it, but it was 2 different continents.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know.
Are we done? Is he going to move them? Is there a third continent we don't know about?
I'm curious as to, because I just know me as a DM, if I was, I guess, I don't know. Because they went all over in that world, and it's so mapped out now that he could continue and have a very good conversation. But the big warring factions are there. You have, the Kryn, not Kryn. Is it Kryn? I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I should know more about Critical Role than I do. But,
right? Or it could be.
That is Dragonlance, but I'm thinking of
the only worlds that are like that are that big, are fully published worlds. Like, Sword Coast is that big. Or Eberron really is a story that you could have had 2 mega campaigns that happened in different places, and maybe be contemplating a 3rd mega campaign that you're going to play. So that world's fleshed out enough and big enough. Numenera is like that kind of that fleshed out big enough world. Wildmount at this point is that big fleshed out world now. Yeah. And we're going to have a cartoon on it. We're going to have shows on it. And I think that's really cool too. So I think good for them. I realize if everybody's not a fan, you don't have to be a fan. It's okay not to be a fan, I think, also. But for those of you that are, hey, this was a big thing, a wrap up of a campaign, a finishing point, and now the excitement of something new maybe coming. I'm always the most excited when something new is starting.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I will be looking for all info from here on out, because I love the beginning. I may not stick through it all the way, right? I may not be able to do that, but that beginning I always like to be a part of. And be there in the community with. So I'm going to keep my eye out, and I think it'll be interesting to see where they go next.
Yep, it's going to be yeah. And like I said, I'm very curious about are they going to stay in that world? And I bet they are, because Matt's put a lot of time into that world and he knows it the best. And then you think about things like Tolis, you know, Monty Cook ran probably hundreds of games in that world, and he's like, we could always play in Tolis. Like, there's no reason not to play in Tolis. And so
there's always something happening. The city that never sleeps.
So speaking of games, Mr. Lucian, how's Dungeon of the Mad Mage? What are you doing?
Man, we're tearing through it right now.
Okay.
We were on level 7. This is spoilers at this point, everybody. So if you're going to play Dungeon of the Mad Mage, come back in a minute or two. And level 7 was smaller in some ways, but bigger in the things that were there. We got to fight, and there was some cool funhouse mechanics going on with do you remember the very beginning start of C-Team for Acquisitions Inc? And they were interns, and they had to prove and get through the intern test.
What was that called? I'm gonna have to look it up, but continue.
Yeah,
I know what it's called.
Had a name. Well, spoilers for that. You should have gone and watched it by now anyways. They got shrunk down in a tavern, and they had to make it through and past the big giant cat and the big things that are going on inside a tavern where the players have been shrunk down. So we had a little bit of a cool thing like that happening in level 7 of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which I thought was really fun. We kind of embraced it as characters, and we had a lot of fun with it. We had some big battles. We had some crazy evil wizards that were doing stuff or trying to, thought they were going to get the better of us, but we turned it around on them, which was really fun. Some of our characters are becoming super strong in the types of magic items they have and the abilities, in the synergies we're building amongst each other. We're about to level up, but we didn't quite make it yet. And we're done with 7. 7's mapped out. But we bypassed 6 when we came down. So level 6 we hadn't seen yet of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And so now we have to figure out, do we go back up and map out 6? Or do we continue down to 8? We might have to figure out what Ac Inc. wants us to do on that one. Which means ask our Dungeon Master what he wants to prep, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we're probably happy to go either way.
The test market. I looked it up.
Yeah. There you go.
Where the Crucible, where adventures come out and people die inside.
And we just sent messages back to Ac Inc. to tell them, hey, go ahead and send some of the office workers to this new spot on 7, because this will be a place for Ac Inc. to be able to fan out from level 7 and do stuff too. So we found a cool place for that. We're building little outposts as we go, or taking them over as we find them. So really fun, having a great time. I can't wait to get to, I've got a big choice coming up. I am a level 7 fighter. No, I'm a level 6 fighter, level 3 cleric. So I could go level 7, 3, or I could go 6, 4 for cleric. And there's a couple of good reasons to go different ways. And this is the part I love about Dungeons & Dragons the most over any of the other games. This is the one thing it has, hands down, over OSR, Numenera. The amount of customization and choices you still can make months and months after you've created your character are still compelling and still interesting, and there's still so much cool stuff on the horizon for my character to work forward to. A lot of these other games where they simplify the mechanics, you have some places for your characters to expand and become something different, but most of the time it's not like equivalent to a Dungeons and Dragons characters where every level something's happening and you're making a choice and you're going up to level 20 and whatever it might be. So this is the part I love as a player, to really dive in. Do I want those couple of extra points? Do I want the more spell slots? Or do I want more fighter stuff? Do I want to go higher hit dice? Do I want to continue down that route to get some other cool things? Or if you've already split class, do you do it again? Do you really go the 3rd class and really twink it out? I don't know. I've never.
Are you guys using the rules to? can you multi-class into anything, or are you using the rules where you have to have certain stats in order to be able to?
Yes, we have to meet the requirements that he won't let us move into anything we don't have the requirements. But other than that, we do have the ability to go to any class. So that's been pretty cool. And this is the first class I've ever done it. Every other character I've played, I've stayed in my class because I've always heard that, by the time you get to a high level campaign, if you've split, you're actually way lower than somebody who's sitting at a level 18 wizard and you're a 9/9.
Yeah.
Right? That seems, or I've been told, is a huge power gap between that. And so I'm going to find out, because this is the first time I've actually had somebody split, and then I might only be a 7/14, or I might be a, whatever it might be. If I do, that's not the right math, but 7/13.
Yeah, level 22 character. That's great. yeah, 21.
Or we can go past 20. D&D has rules for going past 20,
so too funny.
You never know. So I'm excited. That's our Dungeon Master from Down Under, Danimal, and he's running a great game so far. His other party we're catching up to him quickly. And he's had a couple of deaths. See, if any of you remember, he's running his home group through the campaign, and they're probably about 3 or 4 sessions ahead of us in timeline. We're starting to slowly catch up, but he's had a couple of player deaths. So he's wondering what's going to happen when our players get to that. Are we going to have a couple of player deaths now? So he's a Dungeon Master running the same campaign, 2 different groups, slightly apart, which allows him to see how the dungeon reacts differently and things he can do differently as a Dungeon Master. It's a very cool idea if you have the time to do it, to run 2 groups through the same kind of content like that. So very fun.
Super fun.
I'm hoping, I know you have a lot going on in the world of Jordan, and 2 YouTube channels, new job, new kid, new house, new whatever. Newly vaccinated, so you can get out and actually have a life.
So exciting.
Friends coming back over, but did that allow you to play games?
No.
No.
Well, no. So I did a. We didn't talk about this because I think it happened, but my Numenera game got a TPK.
Oh yes.
And so that was interesting. We sat down to play. People made some resting choices, and I won't super bore you with details. Well, it's not boring. It's fun to talk about games, but they went down into a crypt to look for a magical item, and they walked into a kind of a giant machine that takes biological matter and reforms it into some kind of weird creature. And so there was a creature that was made of all arms, and it was just 6 arms that were spidering, walking around together. And there was a weird mutant with the same face as one of the players, which is kind of fun. So creepy Numenera stuff. And unfortunately, they just rolled really poorly. And one of them went down really fast. And when they were trying to get that person back up, they couldn't. And by the rules of the encounter that I was reading, because it was a module I was running them through, the machine, after a round of being at basically almost dead, the machine would start to pull you into its biological vat and then restructure you however it wants. And that just boom, boom, boom.
Cascaded.
And then they pulled them in. And so, yeah, and my players was well, is this a TPK? And I'm like, I think so. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then people online were like, how did you TPK in Numenera? That's almost impossible. And I was like, well, apparently I did it. So, but they also rolled really, really poorly.
We need a badge for it now.
I know.
TPK in Numenera.
So that game has done, and we are taking a break. They're trying to figure out what we want to play next. I think I offered a homebrew campaign in Endegar for D&D 5e. And I also offered that all-drow Menzoberranzan campaign, which I think would be fun. So those are on the table. We'll see what they say. But a lot of people are going camping. A lot of people are vaccinated now. Things happening. Yeah. So it might not be until August that we start playing again regularly. But the flip side of that is I have my modular D6 game that I'm trying to play test. So I had some friends come over, and one of them had never played an RPG before, which was kind of an interesting perspective. And he kept apologizing, but I was like, no, I actually think you're...
That's good insight.
Yes, extremely good insight to see how you are, does this make sense? Not
we
like
take things for granted.
Yeah, like, does this make sense in the sense of you've never played an RPG before? And so he was really cool. I had a veteran player that like has played a lot of RPGs with me, and then another friend who has played like Pathfinder once or twice. And my favorite with him is he said like this is a lot more fun than Pathfinder because it's simpler. And I was like, yeah, good.
Gotcha.
So they had a lot of fun, and I got a lot of really good insight on how I need to restructure magic and some other stuff. So I'm going to rewrite or go through all of my things, and then I will invite them over again to play. But it was just a simple adventure. I'm like, you guys are in a town. Somebody hired you to go to a crypt. I really just need you to go explore and see if the monster fighting mechanics work. And they were like, oh, okay. And it did for the most part. But they're also real squishy. They were at like they were level 1, but they had not a lot of hit points. So I think moving forward, they'll be able to do some more damage and stuff and survive a little bit. But that's every level 1, you know. We did have one character go down, and then they brought him back with some magic, and so it worked out. But originally, I had this idea where you're just like a level 1 peasant, and then as you get experience, you buy stuff. But looking back, I think what I need to do is you get 5... We'll call it experience because I don't know what else to call it, but you get 5 experience points to purchase things, and that makes you level 1. Because them going in with absolutely nothing was like horrific. And they didn't have an idea of like, well, can I cast spells? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I was like, yeah, you can't really do anything. I wrote it that way. That's not fun.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do is we'll have those first 5 experience. Like you could be like, I want to buy a proficiency in a sword, or I want to buy magic, or I want to buy spells. But also, I think at level 1, you could also buy heritage things. So it's like, I want to be able to fly. So it's like, okay, I've got wings, but you have to purchase that, you know? So you got to get to create your race and your class at the beginning. So
interesting.
There was talk of doing a live stream where I was going to talk about this, and I might do that tonight. So we'll see. Over on probably Twitch, maybe on YouTube, where I'm just going to have my documents open and I'm going to like talk about it and revise it and stuff. So that could be fun. But again, if you're a patron of mine, all of the rules are on Patreon and you can go and read them and things like that. Not that I'm like fishing for patrons, but it's just, we have a whole sub channel in our Discord where we can talk about it, and people are giving some interesting insight into that as well. But that's the games that I did. So
well, at least you got some testing.
Pretty much that, yeah. My Numenera game TP'd.
Games, right?
I want to do an old school Essentials game, so I'll talk to you about that, Lucian. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Well, you played the board game too. I think we had guests on, so we didn't talk about that too much. But you played. You were showing it on Twitter.
Oh, Gloomhaven, yeah.
Gloomhaven.
Yeah. So a couple of my friends wanted to start playing some games. You know, I invested in Gloomhaven, so they came over Sunday night, and that was fun because we didn't know how to play. So I had read the rules, but your first time through is always kind of like a slog. And we started playing at like 7:30, and then we got to the fight, and Shannon, my wife, her character didn't make it. And you don't die, but you like basically you're out of the rest of the combat. So there's no bringing her back from the rules that we were reading thus far. And so she went upstairs, and then she came back down, and she's like, "Are you guys still playing?" And we're like, "We're almost done." And she's like, "It's midnight." And I was like, "What?" Time had completely flown. Like, I didn't even know. So, but that's Gloomhaven's quality game. Like, it's a cooperative dungeon crawl. And so there's a big world map, and you basically, like, we want to go here, and then you look it up, and there's tiles that you put down for that dungeon, and then you go slog through. My friends told me that there is now a couple of apps for tablets that do a lot of the heavy lifting math for you. Cool. Which I'm gonna invest in a couple of those, and
plenty of expansions to that too.
Yeah, lots of expansions, and then there's a whole nother game called Frosthaven that is the same mechanics but a whole new world, whole new campaign. So yeah, I'm playing a little. It's called a mind thief, I think, and I'm like a little rat guy that can like steal your mind. So a lot of my abilities are, like, I convince this person to walk into a pit and he does damage to himself, or I summon like plague rats and stuff. It's really cool.
I'll save it for our next show, but I've been playing Solasta.
Oh yeah.
Have you gotten back into that?
No, I haven't played it since, because it's out of early access. It's now open.
It's out.
So yeah,
it's definitely out.
Are you enjoying it?
Maybe not next week's, because we have a guest show next week, right?
We do?
Is it next week?
I don't think so.
Or is it the week after?
No, I don't think it's next week.
What week is it? 2 weeks. Okay, so next week I'll talk about Solasta.
So next week is the 12th. That will be a regular show. The 19th we have some guests coming on.
Some interesting things.
It'll be good.
Okay, so next week I will talk about Solasta, and what I've tried to do is create an all-wizard group.
Oh, really?
Run
That's
it
fun.
through Solasta. And it's interesting and different, and I have things I love about it, things I hate about it, and I'll definitely put that in the notes for next week, because that's fun. I'll play some more this week too, I'm sure, as I get through the more of the campaign, which has been pretty interesting. So, and I want to compare it, because what I want to do is I want to play that, and then I'm going to dive back into Baldur's Gate again, and then play through that, so I have a real good critique of the both, because they're pretty fun. But man, I want more options for my characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm spoiled.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Solasta it's a video game on Steam. It's a PC game, but they took the system reference document for D&D 5e and they made a 5th edition video game. And it's really true to the
it's pretty close
to the rules.
There.
Like like you have sneak attacks and you have all this other, I mean, it does a good job, better than I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, so I don't know, but way better than a couple of other 5th edition games that have come out. So
it's all the open license stuff for sure.
So they have custom spells and things. It doesn't have a Forgotten Realms feel by any means, but it's cool. Like, I thought it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, very cool.
That is our show.
Wrap it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out. We're going to be back next week with another Lucian Jordan show, and then the week after that, some good friends from WebDM are going to come join us and talk about their amazing Kickstarter that's happening. So that should be a lot of fun. We will talk to you next week, if not before. Follow us on Twitter, all the other things, and yeah, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.